Hi, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We're going to take just a few seconds to let everybody come into the room. We got a great program today. We've just kind of got a few numbers and a lot of observations, and some of them that may surprise you. Some of the things we were talking about before we all got together here. But I'm going to do a countdown now of 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and let's get started. Hi, thanks for joining us today. We're all bath towels all the time here today, and it's appropriate because it was super hot last year, and it's still hot, according to everybody and to some of the data. We are joined today by Josh Staph, who's Vice President of the Consumer Division at Standard Textile, Regan Iglesia, who's Chief Marketing Officer for WestPoint Home, Buxton Midyette, who is Supima's Vice President of Marketing and Promotions. Thank you all. Thanks for being here today and taking the time. Before we get started, I just want to remind everybody, we want your questions. We want to hear from you. If you have a contrary or a concurring point of view, we'd like to hear that too. Just pop questions into the chat feature and we will address them. But to get started, I want to put up a chart that came from NPD. This is something they put out at the end of last year. It was January through September 2020. They were talking about the top growing bath categories, both in terms of absolute dollar growth year to date at that point. Bath towel sets, driven obviously by the fact that everybody was shopping online for several months. Bath mats, shower curtains, and then you had dollar change, bath rugs again, towel sets again, waste baskets. Since then, at the end of the year, their number on total increase of sales for the full bath category was at, I want to say, let's see, 31%. I saw some more recent data where they said bath linens, which I presume are towels, mats, and maybe shower curtains, year over year through February, up 26%. So still running strong. Dawn, if you want to take down that slide. Thank you, Dawn. Dawn's behind the curtain. She does all the magic. So guys, let's talk about bath towel sales first, let's just talk about the ride, right? When did the boom start, and how's the wave still rolling? Reagan, you want to take that first?
Sure. I mean, when you think about what happened last year, we didn't really know what was going on with the pandemic, and it was, February was, finishing up, and we go into March, and then the e-com boom just like exploded right into April and into May. So I think we really saw it then. And when it comes to bath towels, it was unstoppable. I mean, retailers throughout the summer were constantly saying, we're just out of towels. They wanted anything they could get their hands on in terms of a towel. So, but we saw that trend really kick off, late spring last year, and it's still pretty strong. And we're developing a lot of new programs for people. We were talking earlier about how color was really a standout. It's usually all about white. The white towel is going to go first, but we got into several TV programs and shopping channels, and white was not the first sellout. It was definitely leaning towards color, and it wasn't just gray too. So that was really exciting to see as a trend that emerged in the hype of the bath towel success that we've been having.
Did that extend to textured towels as well? Did they get a bump?
Yeah, we've definitely been developing a lot more textured towels. I'd say fashion towels were really big for us. We would typically do a lot of programs for fall towel programs in spring, but we were doing summer towel programs, and a lot of fashion comes along with that, as well as innovation. Antimicrobial was really big for us, still is really big for us. And also one other thing is just like these high piece count sets. do a lot of open stock, and we'll do 6-piece sets, but a lot of demand for 12-piece sets and even value sets at 24-piece
Wow.
count towel sets. So that's been a new trend for us as well, is the demand on that. When you're replacing your towels, you're replacing all the bathrooms, and you have multiple bath towels and hand towels and washcloths per bathroom. So we saw a real big surge in the need for high-piece thread counts, high-piece towel count sets. Yeah.
Josh, I see you nodding your head throughout this.
Yeah, so it's the same for us late spring. I remember March was a really scary month. Nobody knew exactly which way things were going to go. Everyone kind of stopped advertising and just sort of sat on the sidelines to figure it out. And then in April, things picked up, especially online. So we have 2 direct-to-consumer brands that really benefited from that. And what we saw was a higher mix of color compared to previous months. So people were getting a bit more into style. And as we mentioned a bit earlier, it's, before, a towel was something you used and hung up and went to work, and then you came back and maybe saw it for 5 minutes before you went to bed. But this was something you're constantly seeing. So it's, more of a piece of art. You don't want to look at the same blank towel. So, that's our theory there. And then we also saw a huge increase in pool resort towels that picked up late in the spring and over the summer as expected, but then carried through, well through fall and into the winter months. So, we have some theories about vacation rental owners, who are suddenly the only travel destination in town needing those products. And yes, the wave has continued for us. And, we've seen a step up within our collection where more people are stepping up to the more premium towels in the collection. And I think it just goes back to creating that comfort and premium feel at home, because we know that they're not going to spas, they're not going to nice hotels. This is as good as it gets, and they want to create that environment in their home.
Yeah. Buxton, from your point of view, I think when we were talking before we all came on, you said you saw a lot of demand for premium fiber for the towel business specifically.
No, absolutely. And frankly, this was a real lifesaver for Supima, because people certainly weren't rushing out to buy a new suit and a dress shirt combo. So it really was a lifesaver for Supima that we saw this strong demand in home and specifically towels. And for the Supima business, that's a lot of pounds of cotton, and it did really kind of lend itself to these, because the fiber is finer and really takes up the dye, so it kind of lent itself and was supportive of this trend towards color, which we just love seeing that, because that's an area where we can kind of really deliver value to our manufacturer partners and brand partners, and make those customers happy. So that really and it continues. We continue to see that strength in through 2021. So it's been a great business for us.
Somebody just asked if I could introduce everybody again. I think I went a little too fast, so I'm going to do that again. Buxton Midyette is Supima's Vice President of Marketing and Promotions. Josh Staph is Vice President of the Consumer Division for Standard Textile, and Regan Iglesia is Chief Marketing Officer for WestPoint Home. And I'm Jennifer Marks. I'm the Editor-in-Chief of Home Textiles Today. So we all know who we are now. We were talking about the boom, and there are 2 interesting things that you guys were just talking about. One is this kind of growth in demand for towels with premium fibers, and on the one hand, and then also 24-piece bath towel sets, which to me sounds like 2 ends of a spectrum. Are they? Is one the value-driven trend, and the other is I guess it's the stay at home, the premiums being driven by, we're at home now, we want to be more comfortable, we're stressed out. Where do you see those things coming from?
Yeah, I think the high piece count is a value play, but we are also, just like Josh said, there's a lot of focus on the better and the higher end towels, and we were always sort of in our sweet spot between $10 and $20, but we're going over that wall and going after much higher price point towels. We're doing some luxury towels as well. I mean, I don't even know if I got a chance to tell Buxton, but we're launching a new Supima towel in June. It's our new
Great news.
Martex Love towels. So, you know, that the better towels are definitely something that the buyers are looking for. And, you know, and lots of different types of innovation is still really important, whether it's quick dry or low lint, we're still seeing a lot of activity where customers want those attributes as well. And those are all pretty much built into those better towels like we're talking about.
Josh, what are you guys seeing at standard?
From a configuration standpoint, so we don't, at least in our direct business, offer those high piece count sets.
Right.
We actually did see a shift away. Normally our 6-piece set was our best seller, and we've actually seen a shift to more of just a 2-piece bath set. So, you know, part of that might be the price point, and we know for a fact that we had customers purchase from us last year who had never bought a single item online. So not anything.
Wow.
So, you know, I think that may have been them dipping their toe into the e-commerce game in 2020. That's crazy to say, but you know, I think that maybe they stepped in with the smaller set count rather than going big. But you know, other than that, we saw a pretty steady configuration percentage.
Okay. And I'm just curious also, because you both mentioned color, and Buxton, you mentioned, you know, color the way that Supima takes it. Were there any colors in particular that were outselling white? I mean, or was it just color in general? What was hot in color?
Yeah, for us, white was still the leader, but it was not nearly as much of a leader as it had been. So gray is always our second best selling color, and it challenged white to some extent. And then we actually brought in new colors. So we experimented with a sea, you know, a deep navy, and then a mist, you know, minty color. And those, you know, definitely took off, but largely the neutrals were the ones that, you know, picked up the slack and really accelerated for us.
Okay.
Yeah, very similar. White is still obviously our best one, but when we did a few programs, we found out that wasn't the first one to sell out, certainly gray. And we're adding gray into our hospitality lineup as well for some long-standing programs, which is typically it's all white in the hospitality world, but we've added a light gray. But the other color, I think it lines up with what Josh was talking about, is a mineral color for us, which is more of like an aqua sea glass color. So that definitely was something that followed. And then the different navies that we do were certainly part of the lineup, and those did very well too.
I got to say, we're, you know, have been really excited to see
Sort of
kind of a complete.
spa stuff.
Oops. We're really excited to see a complete reversal from the previous trend of kind of the battle for the basement to make the cheapest possible towel, and, you know, to engineer as many costs out of it, while, truth be told, engineering performance and benefits out of it. And to see that, you know, we didn't know what that trend was already taking place as we headed unknowingly into COVID, and we didn't know what was going to happen. Were people just going to shut down and not buy at all, or revert to previous really price-driven consumption patterns? But wow, I mean, and I love hearing that you're looking at higher price points and breaching that $20 level, because you can really make a beautiful towel. I mean, there's a lot of things that, you know, there's a lot of resident expertise on this panel and others that know how to engineer an even better product that's going to be soft, comfortable, you know, nice loft, absorbent, all those things. And having that bigger price point just honestly builds more opportunities to beef up some margins, which have been sorely neglected in past years. And we hope that this just makes the overall market healthier, and that customers, you know, the end consumer benefits from a better product, you know, that gets that 5-star rating and just, you know, has momentum to carry into the next purchase cycle.
I have to say, one of the things we were hearing from suppliers, last year as everything was booming, and it was cross categories, and kind of dovetailed with Reagan, as you were talking about. Suddenly everything, if you had stock, if you had inventory, retailers needed it.
Mhm.
And because of that, very often ended up taking on merchandise that was out of their normal grid, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And finding that it's sold. So what I'm going to be really curious about is how much of that sticks, seeing that, yes, your grid isn't as maybe rigid as it needs to be, or you may have thought it needed to be before all of this happened. Are you guys seeing any flexibility on that end?
We certainly did last year, and obviously with the hospitality slowdown, there was considerable inventory sitting there in our distribution centers and at our manufacturing plants that we were able to leverage with some of our partners who are willing to go into non-ideal sizes and different constructions. And that was a lifesaver for us last year, because it was very difficult to keep things in stock. I don't know for us if that flexibility is going to continue, because as we discussed before we started, hospitality is back and that inventory is needed and or gone at this point.
Mhm.
So for our business, it's firing on all cylinders. So we don't necessarily have the access we'd need to get flexible.
Okay. And I do want to come back around to hospitality again in a little bit, but we have some questions that have popped in already. So I'm going to start with those. First question: what impact has the Xinjiang cotton issue had on you guys as manufacturers, if any?
I mean, for us, not much on the towel side. We don't do a lot of the towels on that side of the world, but so not much. But obviously, it's a serious issue, and we're being really careful about that when it comes to all of our other categories that we produce over in China. So, but thankfully, it hasn't impacted the bath towel category much on us.
Yeah, I would say across all categories, one of the first things I did when I started seeing stories of this is I went directly to our product teams and I said, is this bad for us? What's the deal here? And they said, don't worry about it. We have tremendous social responsibility guidelines that we operate around, and luckily it didn't impact or touch any of our manufacturing.
We're definitely seeing an impact in terms of tightening of supply for extra long staple cotton, as that region is one of the major producers for ELS cotton in the world. And already we were looking at a tightening demand or supply situation overall. Our crop, Supima, will be about 30% smaller. The Egyptian crop is going to be, I think, a record kind of low production for this year. So we were already looking at, I think, a tightening demand situation, and we do anticipate, and I could not tell you by how much, but we do see prices for ELS strengthening as we go forward this year.
And that was one of the questions. It was, Buxton, what does your crystal ball say about 2022 Supima prices? So there's a little less planting,
Yeah, and really, in a way, we were at such a low level last year that the drop off in demand was really devastating for our growers, that we were faced with prices. 2 years ago, they were up around $1.70 a pound, and then last spring they dipped down to 90 cents a pound. And this is for a specialty premium fiber that grown sustainably, that cost about $1.20 to produce. So it was really a devastating situation for our 500 family farms. And so now that we've recovered a bit and are back up to $1.60, but the overall supply situation, and with a good strong demand, really, I think would lead us to say the prices are going to increase.
Okay, we've got another couple of questions along this line. With increased demand, how are we solving supply chain issues? How are brands and retailers monitoring their orders with suppliers? I mean, certainly, I think when it comes to extra long staple cotton and premium cotton, nobody wants to get themselves back into the old situation where something is making a content claim that it can't back up. Josh and Regan, as you're dealing with people, how closely are they eyeballing this kind of thing?
Well, I
Uh,
think, go ahead, Josh.
yeah, I would just say this is probably the most pressing issue that, for us, I would say as a business we're facing right now. One of the backstops that we do have is our ability to manufacture domestically. So, that's always going to be plan B. And if we are in a pinch, we can produce products here, shorten our supply chain, and leverage that capability to a larger extent than we currently are. But delivery dates, ship dates, that's probably the most dominant conversation we're having right now. And it's just constantly monitoring that. And you have the rising costs, you have shipping delays. Obviously, what's going on in India right now with COVID is going to impact things. So really monitoring it on a daily basis and understanding if these ship dates are going to hold. And then, air freight is used way more often than we'd like at this point. And this doesn't just, impact the textile trade. It's across every category. And, you're seeing large companies now acquiring businesses specifically for the ability to produce domestically. So I think that's a solution that as things get worse, people are going to take a look at.
Yep. And same for us, Jennifer. I mean, it's a daily communication and a high level of creativity. There's ports that are just so congested. We're just bringing them through land freight to another port that could get it out to us. So it's just a constant communication with the freight forwarders and to trying to get our goods, and just daily communication with the customers and letting them know how things are panning out. So it's a real difficult situation. It's top priority, as like Josh said. But we're just having to find real creative solutions to get things on time. And we're talking about air freight way more than we've ever wanted to, but that's certainly been something. And there's just a lot of premiums that are being attached to a lot of shipping that's going on right now. And so that's a bit of a concern. And some of them aren't coming with guarantees. So again, it's just the constant communication, trying to consolidate things the best we can to maximize our containers. So, but it's top priority, and it's just a daily communication across all cross-functional teams.
Yeah, and then it's also a daily communication with our customer base as well. And I would say that they're aware of this global issue. And I think the Suez Canal being on, every, news show helped a little bit, as odd as that situation was, because the story wasn't just about, the block canal. It was about how this is accelerating problems that have been happening for months. So, we just over explain to customers, over communicate, tell them, we've leveraged pre-order quite a bit, just letting them know that, this is the estimated ship date. And, we've seen tremendous success with that, where customers are willing to, get in line and put their order in and wait 3 or 4 weeks for the product to ship. But we do get a lot of customer service inquiries about where do you ship from, how long does it take, because they're seeing this in every category that they're shopping online. So.
Yeah, and I'm Buxton, from the raw material standpoint, I guess that's happening double whammy, right? You've got to try to get it out and over.
That's right. No, there's real issues at the ports and with empty containers, and to make sure that we're, shipping on a timely basis is a real challenge for our brokers who act as who buy the cotton from the farmer and then put it into shipments that the manufacturers need to get it over to its destination in a timely basis. And that's a real challenge. But I mean, I do think, COVID has been, among many difficult things, a great accelerator. And we're heading in this direction towards more transparency across the supply chain and more partnership and strategic kind of collaboration. And we're definitely seeing that in a way, vendor, brand retailer that might have had a slightly adversarial or a competitive relationship now, in a way, in this environment, have to be partners and working together. And we see it's those partnerships that are going to allow groups to navigate this, successfully. Because in the case of extra long staple cotton, there's no benefit of futures markets. You have a cotton futures market, which allows you to hedge and mitigate risk in terms of price fluctuation. You do not have that in ELS, which is 1% worldwide of the total cotton market. And so in a way, there has to be a process between your retailer, your manufacturer, of sitting down and saying, well, how much, we have this program that's selling really well in the luxury category, we're going to need ELS. Let's think about that and start planning, around acquiring the needed volumes to supply it, and having those very strategic conversations, because you just can't come in on the spot market and expect somebody to be sitting on a quantity that they bought on spec.
We've had a flurry of questions come in over the last 5 minutes or so, and kind of taken together, they're sort of around the idea of the higher freight prices, the higher cotton prices, and whether you're seeing any signals at the end of the day that retailers are going to share some of those higher prices and pass them along to the consumer.
I think it's going to happen, and it already is in some categories. So we have very large brands who've already come out and said we're increasing prices to, mitigate the increase in raw material costs and shipping. So I think that's coming for sure.
Yeah, I think we'll see it too. I think one thing that we're trying to do is also, with that higher cost price, that we're giving something else with it and paying close attention to some of the attributes, whether it's, quick dry or low linting or super absorbent, something that is also coming along with that, not just slapping these high prices on everything, and giving a little bit more value and maybe a stronger attribute that's the focus of that particular towel. So we're trying to balance all that out, because we know that that's a big concern. But we have been focused a lot on different types of quality attributes with the new towel development that we have. Antimicrobial as well is a big one.
That's a very good segue to another question that we have, which is for, Josh and Regan. Can you tell us about some of the new fibers and fabric qualities you're using or developing in towels? What are you doing?
Well, for us, the big one that we really went after, and again, we do a lot of fun things on shopping channels and things like that. And one of the ones that just sold out, and the color towel sold out first before the white, was our antimicrobial or purity towels, as we call them. And that was a big hit throughout last year. And we're just trying to get our replenishment in, because it did so well. But that was a big one. And we're also focusing a lot on, we did some innovation with a Japanese brand called Izawa, and their technology around their fibers is the super softness, the super soft hand feel, and we focused on quick dry and super absorbent and low linting. Those are some attributes that are real big in the Asian marketplace, and we think that can translate into the Western marketplaces. So we've been focusing on that. And we've also been blending other things like Textile into our towels, and still going with Supima. We have 3 Supima collections in our line, and those represent our high-end towels. And And we're also doing Turkish towels. I think I saw a question about Turkish towels as well. So as part of one of our major foundational collections for one of our brands, we introduced a Turkish towel as well. So we're going in lots of different directions. There is a lot of need to differentiate from one retailer to the next, and in terms of innovation and quality and price point and design. So we've got a lot of development going on. It's been such a great year for towels that we made a big splash this past market on all of our development and our various brands. So it's been a fun year for development, expanding this category. And rugs as well, and robes that go with it. So the whole bath category has been really explosive, like we've been saying.
Okay, Josh, what are you guys working on?
Yeah, so I would say the mix is probably the same. We're producing an antimicrobial terry collection for a private label partner. Obviously, that's given everything that's happened in the past year, a very popular product. We're also continuing to develop around our 100% zero twist cotton offering. So that's our best selling towel at the moment, and we're adding colors and designs to that assortment. And then we have a patented sentient core technology that goes into sheeting as well as our terry, and that allows for a more durable, lighter, and faster drying towel. So we have some interesting new styles coming into that collection as well. So leveraging technology we already have, and then obviously listening to the customer demand, whether it's the home consumer or private label customer, and producing those technologies for them.
Okay, we have another question saying a lot of customers are looking for environmental or sustainability in towels. Which certifications have the most value? And I'm guessing some of these may be particular to certain retailers, but
Yeah.
is there something that's, if you're like saying at foundational level, you at least need to have this, and you should also have this in your collection. What do you see happening there?
Yeah, it seems that Okotex is pretty table stakes at this point. You see it more often than not. So that's something that pretty much every one of our products across all categories have.
Mm-hmm.
And we're starting to work with BCI cotton as well. So that's got a sustainability and a social responsibility element to it, and we've seen a strong customer reaction to that.
Yep, same. Okotex is sort of standard now, and BCI, like in our sheeting factory, everything's BCI 100%. That was a goal that we set out for ourselves. But I think the other one that's been really important is GOTS. So from an organic perspective, that's been really important, and we're going to make an even bigger deal about that in the coming shows. So organic is definitely a big part of that whole environmental and sustainability message. And it was definitely something that was of great interest to the buyers this past show.
Okay, and Buxton, I believe Supima has partnered with BCI as well.
We have many growers who are part of that program and working to expand that offering. It's I think a great way to kind of build in advancing standards, not just around the world, but in the U.S., that we keep advancing our sustainability practices. And we've, as Jennifer, we talked about, we haven't mentioned on this discussion yet. We've really been working for the past decades on a traceability solution, and finally had a breakthrough with our kind of current technology partner, Oratain, that we're able to forensically trace Supima cotton at any stage in the supply chain back to its point of origin. And so this is more than a paper certification of authenticity of Supima, but that you can test that towel, you can test that shirt, that sheet, that sock, and validate that it is indeed 100% Supima. It's not just presence, though, that you can verify that it's 100% or 80% or 20% or 50%. And if there's any non-compliant fiber in there from an unapproved origin, you can detect that too. And so this is kind of your insurance. I know we're talking about towels, but it's just for your good night's sleep, that you can sleep well in those sheets and not worry about being on the headline masthead of HTT when they catch you with non-compliant fiber. So it's a big, and we're really excited to see the attention on sustainability. It's something our farmers have practiced, for generations, making the best quality product with the lowest amounts of input and minimum impact on the environment. And it's really, we are a premium fiber. We're always going to be more expensive. We do perform, but we know that there's price pressures, and this is just another kind of value add for our partners in the supply chain.
Okay, we got some more fiber questions. First being, is using U.S. cotton a big deal? And I'm guessing that means sort of like in a finished product in the equation on whether, a merchant is going to choose that for a program or whether it's a buying trigger for the consumer. Where does the fact that you got U.S. cotton in your product factor in? What do you guys think?
And so we
volunteer from a fiber standpoint. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say that we manufacture, we have private label relationships with multiple made in the USA brands who, Authenticity 50 is one I know you're familiar with, and it's seed to stitch. So their whole brand is built on the premise that it's grown here, woven here, cut and sewn here. So there's multiple brands that are servicing, that customer demand. So we know that it exists. And obviously those brands need that product to be, start to finish in the United States. So I think, it's going to continue to become important as, there's global uncertainty and disruption. I think people are going to want to know that their product is, made close to home and that it is shipped in a short period of time after it's made. And I mentioned we get those questions, where do you ship from, where are your products made? And, I think it's a mix between the made in USA pride and also I want a product on my doorstep quickly. And I want to know that it's going to ship from, somewhere central and get here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a big deal for us too. I mean, I think that, we produce in like good, better, best. So certainly from a better, best perspective, particularly with our focus on Supima, that U.S. cotton is definitely a big deal. It doesn't always get to address that opening price point level, but certainly from a better, best standpoint, we like to take that path.
Okay. Another question, and I'm going to reword it a little bit. Thoughts just about antimicrobial attributes, naturally derived solutions versus chemical solutions. Are you seeing, is everything all equal? Everybody's happy with their right solutions, or are you seeing more demand for natural solutions?
Well, and I think for us, Jennifer, ours is a little bit different because we have an exclusive proprietary kind of technology it's not topical, so it's not a chemical, but it's the silver is infused into the fiber. So it's a permanent solution where we would rather stay away from something that's topical that washes out over time. Mm-hmm. So, but it's been very successful for us, and we think it's very, very important. And it's a big story for us. So we're staying kind of focused on that, our silverback technology as a focus when it comes to antimicrobial.
Yeah, I would just reinforce that the preference is for the lifetime of the product, more so than, how is it executed.
Okay. All right. I want to circle back to something, Josh, that you mentioned a little earlier. I was surprised to hear when we were chatting before the program started. I said something about the hospitality business slowly coming back, and you said, oh no, it is back, at least as far as demand, right, for room furnishings goes. What's happening with that?
Yeah, so, internally we had projected that it would be towards the end of 2022 that our volumes would start to match 2019 levels, and in the first quarter we're already exceeding 2019. So I think it was pent up consumer demand to travel. I traveled last month, and I think we've all seen, packed hotels and beaches and people wanting to get away. And as the different markets open, they're going to have to catch up with inventory. So that's what we're seeing right now. There's just a huge demand on inventory. I think what happened last year, it took some people out of the market. So there's fewer players now providing the supply for that demand. So everyone's sort of competing, and obviously there's existing large customers who need to, get back to their previous inventory levels and catch up themselves. So it's, we're producing around the clock in our manufacturing facilities here and overseas to catch up and support those partners who are seeing that demand on their end.
And Regan, what about you guys?
Yeah, I mean, hospitality is certainly back, and we're having to shift all of our plans. We were ramping up for a lot more retail business, particularly with the e-com explosion. But boy, we're really having to shift things around to make sure that we get everything that we need for hospitality. And one other sort of little trend that's been coming around is, I mentioned earlier, it was campgrounds and camping and kids camps. And with this still trend of like we want to stay outdoors and entertain outdoors, those campgrounds also need towels, and they need blankets, and they need sheets and things like that. But we've seen a big surge with that, and there's literally thousands of camping locations around the country, and that's been a big opportunity that we've been seeing in our hospitality sector.
Do they have some sort of like organized distributing
That's
buying cooperative?
Funny that you asked that. That's probably the biggest part that we've been having to work on. We have one group that has like over 500 locations, and just to set up 500 different accounts, we're trying to have it centralized and have it go through an e-com platform so that everyone can order it. Because depending on the size of the campground, they could order for, just a small amount of rooms, a dozen rooms versus 100. And so that is a big operational aspect that we have to address to work with all these new opportunities. So.
And we're working through that on the vacation rental market as well, where you might have someone who owns 50 properties, but they need their orders sent individually to those properties. So you're not going to be buying in case pack because they don't want to create sets and then fulfill their own goods to their own property. So we have we're working in conjunction with our hospitality division to service that market, given the growth and the potential there.
So I'm curious, in those realms, campgrounds and vacation rentals, is it still a white goods business in terms of we want our paper white towels and everything to look super sanitary? And are they now in this COVID era, are they also wanting antimicrobial? I mean, what's the
Yes.
with that?
I mean, for us, it's still largely white. I will say the one exception is, I think Josh mentioned earlier, is the pool towels. The towels is sort of like a different thing, and we have colorful stripes and different patterns and things like that. So that's more fun because it's more for like the kids' camps and things like that. But the rest of it seems to be largely white and gray. So, but a great increase in the business on that side of things.
Yeah, we're seeing the same, mostly white. Some of the hosts or rental owners who are part of premium platforms, rental platforms, they have a standard of white to match that hospitality look and feel.
Okay. So let's come back to the consumer retail end of the business. How long does this have legs, this wonderful, terrific tidal wave of bath towel business? What do you think?
I mean, for our business, I think it's got serious legs because a lot of what we're seeing is a shift to online. And I think that, everyone talked about this COVID bubble. People can go to stores now pretty easily, and most of them feel safe doing so. And we haven't seen any slowdown. So we expect these elevated levels to be the new normal. And, I see it as, maybe a decade's worth of e-commerce growth happened in 8 to 10 months, and people see the convenience and, stepping up to maybe a higher price point, a more premium product than they're getting at big box stores. And that's their, their new standard, and they had a great product experience, and they're going to stick with that. So that's what I'm seeing.
Yeah, I think it's still very sticky with the, there, and believe it or not, there are new customers to the e-com world. And then we talked about earlier how BOPIS is a really big factor, sort of it's a hybrid, they're buying it online, but they're coming to the store to pick it up. And we think in our category, it's still important to make sure that we're addressing brick and mortar. People still want to come in and feel the product, and, touch and feel is so important in the textiles world. So while there's a lot of retailers that are actually closing doors, there's a few that are actually opening up more doors with a particular focus on home. So we're seeing that become really important for those that were underpenetrated in the home category. So we're seeing a little bit of both, but I think those customers that have been buying online, we think they're going to continue to buy a lot online, and maybe that hybrid of buying online and picking up in the store is going to be something that continues to grow for a lot of retailers that can offer that service.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we've seen the online trend be certainly it can be price competitive, but we've seen it be very supportive for premium products, and that it affords broader bandwidth and more opportunities around storytelling, that you can really romance these attributes and fully explain them through pictures, through videos, through copy, and really tell a story around a product, which can be challenging in brick and mortar. And in terms of displays, in terms of having a trained sales associate who can answer parse questions around different fibers and combinations, and it is possible, but it's really hard to maintain your staffing at that level. So we're of course happy and supportive to sell at both, but we do see that online has been supportive around launching new innovative product, and in a way they many times these products are new and have to capture new customers who aren't familiar with them, and telling a story about the integrity of the product and going down that list that that we're using. Here's premium construction, premium materials, new performance attributes. That really helps to sway customer that's making that investment for a towel, because I feel like this is like an investment product that people do spend some time thinking about, versus like, oh, I'd like to wear that top for the beach this weekend. Like, in a way, like this, they're laying out a significant amount of money, and this they want to research it a little bit.
Well, to Buxton that end, I know that Supima works with several, I think, of these digitally native brands that have very narrow product assortments, but very focused on narrative and quality. I mean, I've heard you mention things I've never heard of before. So is this segment of the market still developing, and how do they find you, or how do you find them? How does that journey from, we've got this idea, we're starting up our own online brand and we want it to be a premium, how does that connection happen?
I think both Josh and Regan have personal experience, direct experience with that, with your in-house brands.
Well, that's true.
Authenticity 50, who in a way, they came to Supima independently because they just wanted to make something the USA, make it, the best. And, at WestPoint, with your initiative, seems like it's part of the storytelling.
Okay, so Josh and Regan, can you talk to us about how, because normally when I think of a digitally native niche brand, I'm thinking of, the kind of site you go to and you see here our story. My wife and I were shopping for sheets and we couldn't find anything we wanted. Gosh, we thought, let's start our own brand. That's kind of the stereotypical. But you guys are both large manufacturers who have created niche brands online. So how does that work?
Yeah, so that founder story, I think, was really in vogue, especially 5 or 6 years ago. I think we probably get, per quarter, 1 to 2 inquiries for someone who wants to start a brand. They don't know exactly what their assortment's going to be, and they want our recommendations. And, a lot of times they'll say, we want it to be a really premium fiber like X, Y, and Z. And, it's sort of us to recommend the product development pathway. And, they hear buzzwords and they're moderately educated on what some of them mean. But from what I've seen, there's not a whole lot of upfront research that goes into it. I think as they pursue and they learn more, from the various premium fiber companies, they, can make a decision based on that. And obviously Supima has a recognizable name, and, to be able to, attach themselves to that is obviously a point of difference. So I don't think it's nearly as deliberate of a process as the founder stories often set out to tell. But when we launched our direct-to-consumer brands, it was easy because we had product equity, brand equity in luxury hotels, and that was where we wanted to, continue the name forward. So our founder story was an 80-year-old founder story of creating luxury linens, and it wasn't a morning someone woke up and said, "These sheets feel great. I think I should sell sheets to people."
Okay.
Yeah, and as you know, we started our own direct-to-consumer, business, and Supima was a big part of our story. It was the only type of cotton that we used for our Griffin story, and we did, use the background of our 200 years of heritage as part of the backbone of that assortment and collection. So we're really glad we jumped in when we did, because it was sort of like the big thing, as Josh said, on Vogue like 5-6 years ago, and then so many have followed and have jumped into the pond on trying to get those things launched too. It takes a great deal of commitment and a lot of marketing, and to build that customer base and make that a real success, and expanding and the offering and putting some exciting things out so that they are repeatedly coming back for your product and for your brand. So, but it's been a good experience, and we're really glad that we jumped in when we did, because I think that it's getting really crowded now, but you have to find ways to stand out. And one of our ways was the quality and, how we produce it ourselves. We don't have a middleman that makes this, we make it ourselves. We're using Supima cotton, and we have a variety of qualities to honor the ways that you like to sleep. So it's been a great launch for us.
But what does this, because you guys are both sizable manufacturers, having these sort of niche direct-to-consumer brands that you've launched can't be, nor can it be expected, I think, to be a huge part of your business. So what do you derive from doing this? It has to inform you somehow, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think, what we found is that the way we approached the audience that we were targeting was a younger consumer. It was, we created a consumer target for this, and that's who we went for. It didn't need to be everything to everybody, and we certainly have a lot of different consumer brands in our portfolio that address different needs. We have something that will address, the baby boomer, the Gen X, and the millennial, and we have things that can address, customers that want something very contemporary, transitional, or traditional. And we wanted to strengthen this part of our portfolio that attracted this young, established millennial that's really savvy about the products, and they're not necessarily tied to their parents' brands that they're loyal to. They want to find their own brands, and they want to stand for something new and different and something that's more modern. So we took that approach that it was going to build our business by bringing in this whole new audience that we really didn't address very well. So,
Okay.
And I'd say on our end, direct to consumer was our entry point into the consumer market. And, the expectation is that this market will grow significantly for us to be one of the, largest in the company over time. And direct to consumer is actually the main strategy within that division. So, we have competitive advantages in the space where we can private label manufacture, we can partner, and, similarly, we produce our own goods. So We do have a head start over a lot of the other direct consumer brands, but it is a key revenue driving growth strategy for our company.
Okay. We have another question, probably time for one or two. And Buxton, I'm going to throw this to you first. Do we see a future where complete traceability would be available in the product label from the farm where the cotton was procured from, which you can actually do already with the Oratane traceability program? I'm going to ask you, how many people are using that in their labeling? I know you've had some on the apparel side, like very high end, do it.
Yeah, we have a lot of people in pilot right now in terms of product that's out there at retail right now. The Caring Group, their luxury brands is offering, as well as Theory, and there's a number of other brands in pilot. But I mean, the future is now, in a way. With Caring, they elected to source directly from a farmer, Doce Alvarez in La Union, New Mexico, to buy directly from him. And that cotton gets taken to Alpini in Italy and goes right into their luxury brands of shirting products, and it can be traced directly back to that farm. Now, Supima, when we partnered with Oratane, we really had to map our entire growing region. We weren't, didn't want to there wasn't as much utility to getting farm specific, but that capability is certainly there, that you could, source directly from a farm. It's something that I think is great for storytelling. I think from a manufacturing standpoint, there's a certain amount of risk that you can have climactic situations that are specific to a farm or a region, which you might have great quality for 4 years and then some really bad years, climactically, or, some other situation that might undermine quality. And it's nice to be able to still, source from the broader kind of group of, 500 family farms across the California, Arizona, New Mexico, West Texas. So it certainly is possible. It's not always advisable, but it is a great story, and that certainly can be done. And it actually is being done today.
Josh and Regan, when you're talking to accounts, I mean, how much transparency do they want, and I guess there's the amount of transparency they want for themselves, right, as a buying organization, versus how much of that transparency do they want to be able to open up to the consumer as say, here, you can here's this towel, trace it all the way back to wherever.
Well, it's definitely a bigger and bigger part of the conversations these days, and we're working on the development. I don't think they've taken it to that next step to involve the consumer, but it's definitely something that, gives them a lot of assurance. It gives them a lot of confidence in the product that we're doing. And there's a lot of, obviously, integrity that we work into make sure that we give them that level of traceability that they want in the product. So,
yeah, it's similar for us. I mean, we have, obviously guidelines and certifications and everything else that are important, but I get the sense that they want to make sure that we meet a standard, not necessarily, knowing every little detail and being able to convey that.
Okay, well, I think you both said that sort of right now the table stakes are an Ecotex label, somewhere on the package, and that's kind of some baseline getting through. All right, well, I think we've covered a lot of territory, from campgrounds to cotton, right, to COVID, to online, to BOPUS. You guys brought some great insights. I really, really appreciate you taking the time. And to everybody who tuned in, thank you so much. We will be back with another session next month, and we hope you'll join us. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you, Jennifer.
Thanks, Regan and Josh.